So last night I ended up feeding these animals 13 buckets, and I gave the animals out front 1 bucket. And I had 2 animals bloating just a little bit, and so I stopped feeding them. And I also got them a bale of hay out here. I got them a bale of hay so they can chew on that if they want to, and that hay will help them not have acidosis, right? I feed hay as like a buffer, right? Hay, you know, well, I mean, granted that you're not feeding like a dairy quality hay. If you're feeding like a dairy quality hay, or you're feeding alfalfa, or you're feeding soybeans or peanuts, if you're just feeding a grass hay and you take a look at it and you're like, oh, well, I know, you know, a long while ago, about 6 months ago, 7 months ago, 5-6 months ago, you know, I took a good look at the hay, and I actually said I anticipate that this hay is somewhere between 10 and 12% protein, because I was looking at the length of the grass, the biomass of the grass, and taking a look at how much seed heads were in it. And then I was able to determine at what stage of development was this grass harvested in. And so I took a look at it, and I said I determined that this hay is somewhere between 8 and 10% protein. And so it's good roughage material. There's no weeds in it, and so it's good roughage material. And so you know, if you have a hay that's not that, you know, like this hay over here, this is a very good example. The hay, I would anticipate that it's somewhere between 8 and 10% protein. There's a lot of seed heads in it. The grass is the biomass of the grass when it was harvested was pretty extensive. I mean, the grass was maybe 1.5 2 foot tall. And there are a lot of seed heads in it, so I know that the feed qualities of the grass are not that high. And so I gave the animals the hay, and then they can chew on the hay, and it'll help them not have acidosis. But last night I was taking a look at the animals. I was taking a good hard look at them, and I saw 2 animals that were slightly having acidosis, and this or slightly having bloating issues. And I'm not sure what's going on with this one, but the animal's just kind of standing there, man. So I don't know if they're full or but I'm gonna keep an eye on him or her. I'm gonna keep an eye on that one. I'm not sure what's going on. My whole thing with the animals is you know, if I even think that something is wrong, I just go ahead and give them a shot of antibiotics. So I might just go ahead and give this one a shot of antibiotics. But they're not showing any signs of, this one's not, well, I mean, but cattle, you got to understand that cattle, they're not they're a prey animal. I mean, they don't show signs of being sick. They don't show signs of being hurt. I mean, and so you know, you got to more or less rely. I just rely on my instincts. I take a look at them and I say I think something is wrong with this one. Then I just go ahead and I jump on it. And so, you know, yesterday I gave these animals. I'm keeping an eye on that one. Yesterday I gave these animals 13 buckets of grain, and by the evening I had 2 animals bloating. And this morning, you know, I'm moving them up to about I gave them 7, and so this morning I'm thinking about increasing the amount of grain that they give out 1 bucket, and I'm gonna see how they do. I'm gonna see if they stop eating. And the whole big idea is that you know, these animals, when they first get put on a new feed, you got to be real careful, because that new feed, they may really like it. And if they really like it, they'll just eat a whole boatload of it. And then every once in a while, you'll have an animal that just eats themselves to death. And so that first day that you put them on a new feed, you got to be real careful about it. Granted that you don't have a lot of roughage material in it. That's also another, but if you have a real small animal, you also don't want to give them a whole bunch of roughage material, because then they won't be able to digest it. And then it's just going to sit in their gut, and their gut is real small. They don't have a real big stomach, so they can't eat a whole lot. And so you gotta figure out what you're going to do, depending on what size of an animal you brought in. You know, depending on what size of an animal you have, and you gotta, you know, figure out what you're gonna do by looking at that. And so you know, it depends on you know, it depends what you're gonna do. It depends. But this animal, I mean, this animal is not holding their head low or anything. He's just not eating. But I'll have to figure out what's going on with that. I'll have to figure out what's going on. Okay, I took a good look at him. I know what he's over there. Okay, I'm keeping an eye on him. But, you know, depending on what size of an animal you have, and you know, if you got an animal like this size, I would say that the average weight on these animals somewhere around 450, 500. You gotta, and they've been, you've been giving them a good diet for several months now, and their gut is properly developed, right? And then having some extra roughage material is a very good idea because it will reduce their chances of acidosis. And the animal's actually over there eating, so that's good. They might just be full. I was feeding them a lot yesterday. They were eating it up, and then by the end of the evening, they were barely licking it up. They were barely eating it. And so what I got going on in terms of my business right now, in terms of my financials, I'm actually not going to buy a new truck until after I've bought my new land. I'm going to buy my new piece of land first, and then I'm going to buy my new truck, because the whole idea right now is that I want my balance sheet to look real good. I'm going to raise these animals. The big plan is to raise these animals until about February. And then I'm gonna start liquidating the biggest animals about February or March. I'm gonna determine what I need to do. I'm gonna get to February. I'm gonna take a look at them. Right now, I would say that the biggest ones are about 650, 700 or so. The big ones are, you can see the two big ones on the end over there, the red one and the black one. I would say that the big ones right now are about 650, 700. They're probably closer to 700. So somewhere around next month, they'll be about close to about 750, 800. And I'm gonna sell them real big. And the reason the reason is that well, right now I'm feeding about 15 buckets a day. I'm feeding about 14 buckets a day, and these animals, they might not actually even eat 14 buckets. They might have only ate 14 buckets yesterday because the feed, they were put on new feed and they really liked it. So they may have just overeaten. And so these animals, they might stop overeating. And if they stop overeating, even at 14 buckets of feed a day, I'm still making a substantial profit. It's several $1,000s. And so, I'm still making a substantial profit. I don't care about the $2,000. And here's also what I mean by I don't care about the $2,000. When I sell these animals, if I sell my four biggest animals at 800 pounds, if I sell my four biggest animals at 800 pounds, I'll make like 6,500, 7,000. So I can just take the $2,000, and the $2,000 that I need for the feed, it's going to feed all of the animals. It's not just going to feed my four biggest ones. So I don't even, and to be completely honest, I don't even sit there and look, and think about the 2,000. I understand that the feed costs me 2,000, but I don't sit there and think about it every minute of every single day, right? I mean, there are better things for me to think about. And this is something I was talking about yesterday. A lot of you don't understand that mentally you're legitimately a poor person. You're not broke, you're legitimately poor. And once that's happened, it's effectively a death sentence. You're going to be stuck like that forever. And if you want to see a very good example of someone when I talk about you're legitimately poor, and I would actually bet 10 to 1, my 10 to your 1, that you're never going to recover from this. If you want to see what I'm talking about, go on YouTube right now and type in house poor. Go and look up house poor. Go and look up credit card debt. Go and look at people who have a large amount of credit card debt. They have their house poor, right? Their house payment is 40, 50% of their income. Go and look at those people up. I would bet with every single one of these people 10 to 1. And I know that this is not exactly politically correct or whatever, right? It's not PC, and it's not, I can't believe, but whatever, I'm just going to say it. I would actually bet 10 to 1 that every single one of these individuals do not make it financially. I would actually bet. Why? Because the damage has already been done, and it's more than likely permanent. I mean, take a look at these people. I mean, go and look and see how many times you hear the word manifest. I'm manifesting my better future. You're not you're manifesting. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what that means, but you're doomed. All right, you're doomed. I guarantee it. Every single one of these people doomed, never recovering. It's the damage has been done, and it's permanent. What's a realistic financial plan? I'm gonna find myself a good company that produces a good product, and if they do 10%, if I gain 10% on their, by investing in their company, if I gain 10% if I gain 10% a year for the next 10 years, I will have made 60, 75% compounding growth. That is a realistic plan. I have $120,000 in credit card debt, a $25,000 car note, right? I mean, $50,000 in university loans, and I am manifesting a better future for myself. You're doomed. All right, oh my God, you know, my house payment is 50% of my income, and now I'm sitting, right? I mean, you're doomed. All right, if you legitimately want to have a better financial future, what is the way to do it? You need to think about accumulating assets and making a positive return on your assets. If you take a look at a company and that company does not look like it will go bankrupt in the next 10 years, you take a look at it, Coca-Cola is a very good example. I do not anticipate that Coca-Cola is going to go bankrupt over the next 10 years. They produce a 3.12% dividend. They've been returning average 10% a year for the last 74 years. Even if Coca-Cola went from $1 a can to $1.25 a can, people would still buy it. And if Coca-Cola went from $1 a can to $1.25 a can, their earnings of the company will go higher. And if the earnings of the company goes higher and the stock trades at an even 25 multiple, 20 to 25 multiple, P/E multiple, then the stock price will increase. Right? And if you make a 10% return a year over the next 10 years on a $2,000 a month investment, you now have $400,000. You put $240,000 into it and you have $400,000. If along the way Coca-Cola does something drastically stupid, right, like they're going to change their Coca-Cola formula or something, they do something drastically dumb, which they probably won't do, right? I mean, Coca-Cola is not going to change their formula. I hope not. If they change their formula, then yeah, I mean, that's not good, and you should probably sell your stock, because I mean, you know, why would they change their formula? Granted that Coca-Cola just continues to be Coca-Cola for the next 10 years. Even if Coca-Cola goes from $1 a can to $1.25 a can, people will still buy it. All right, and you come up with something realistic like that, and they're not going bankrupt in the next 10 years. You have better things to think about than to be worried about Coca-Cola going bankrupt in the next 10 years. I mean, think about something else. Maybe I should accumulate a different asset. Maybe I should accumulate this asset. Maybe I should go and get this asset. Maybe, you know, go and think about something else. Don't sit there and be worried that Coca-Cola is going to go bankrupt in 10 years. And, you know, and that's, you know, that's realistically how you're going to make money. All right, if you make a 10% return annually over a 10-year span, and you put $2,000 a month into the investment, within the 10 years you will have put $240,000 into it, and you will have made $400,000. And that $400,000, granted that the, you know, Coca-Cola doesn't go bankrupt or whatever, and they will produce a 3.12% dividend every year, guaranteed, right? And so, etc. That's how you realistically make money. You don't sit there and go, oh my God, I have $100,000 in credit card debt. I have a $25,000 car note. I have $55,000 in university debt, and I am manifesting a better future. You're not you're manifesting homelessness. You're going to be homeless, all right? And the damage has already been done. It's and I talk about this all the time. And when I talk about this, I say this. I'm not saying this with the intentions of being malicious. All right, but if once it's happened, it's probably a done deal. You know, if you legitimately crawled yourself into a $150,000, $200,000 hole, you're probably done for, right? You know, let's just say you have an 8% interest rate on that 200 grand that you have a loan, and you have an average of an 8% interest rate. I mean, it's a done deal. You know, this is why I put such an emphasis on you know, like you know, you probably don't understand this, but if you actually have nothing, you're actually miles ahead of people who have actually already started developing major problems. Because if you're $200,000 in the hole, you're probably not going to recover from that ever. I would actually bet 10 to 1, and I'm not saying that to be malicious. You're probably not going to recover from that ever. The damage has already been done. You live in a microcosmic universe that encourages you to be poor, and you're doomed. I can almost guarantee it. And if I say that, maybe you'll actually, you know, look to do better for yourself. You know, maybe, you know, this will be, you know, you're not manifesting anything. Okay, if anything, you're manifesting homelessness. You're manifesting eternal poverty for yourself. You need to think about accumulating assets, making a positive return on those assets, and then holding onto those assets forever, developing an idea of why you are accumulating said assets and why you believe that those assets are going to go up in value. That's why. That's the kind of stuff you need to be thinking about. You don't need to be sitting there, oh my God, I'm manifesting a better future for myself, but I have $200,000 in loans. 8% interest rate on $200,000 in debt. Manifesting myself a better future, it's not going to work. All right, you know, you need to think about, you know, I'm going to accumulate this asset, and I believe that it's going to go up by this percentage every year because of this reason. And I'm just, you know, and I'll keep an eye on my whatever, right? I have an idea of why I'm investing in this, and then you move forward with your plan. You don't ask anybody, you know, etc., etc. All right, you know, and but the thing about my personal business right now, the thing that I'm looking to do, I'm not going to buy myself a new truck until until after I buy my new piece of land. And I've been talking about this, but the whole idea of me, I want to make my balance sheet look really good so that when I go to the bank, they'll give me a good loan. I want my balance sheet to look real good. And so the plan is that I'm going to sell these animals real heavy. And it's my balance sheet is going to look real good if I'm dropping, you know, $15,000 a month into my bank account and I'm only using $2,000, right? I mean, that's going to look real good. If I sell 2 lot of cattle every month, if I sell 8 cattle, 10 cattle every month, and I'm bringing home $15,000, $20,000, right? And then I show that to the bank, and I show them, hey, you know, I make $15,000 and it cost me $2,000. That looks real good. So I put $2,000 into this thing and I made $15,000 back. That looks real good, right? That looks real good. Oh man, here's a guy who, you know, he's investing, you know, $2,500 a month. He's investing $1,500 a month, and he's making somewhere between $7,000 and $15,000 a month off of his investment. That looks really good. I want to show that to the bank so that they give me a good loan. And also, I don't want to put another car note on my balance sheet, because I mean, a car note is not really going to do anything. We're talking about a few $100s a month, but it's not going to really do it. But still, I want my balance sheet to look pristine. Right? Here's a guy who, you know, who makes, you know, 400 or 500 times, you know, 400 to 500%, right? I mean, like, you know, this is a guy who, if he makes $5, he only spends $1. That's I want my balance sheet to look like that, right? I mean, it's like you know, every time I make $1, you know, that's what I want my balance sheet to look like. I mean, and to put things into perspective, if I calculate if I just put all of my expenses on a piece of paper, and I put all of my income on a piece of paper, I actually make about 4 to 5 times more money than I spend. That's about how my balance sheet looks out. If you want to take a look at my cattle business right now, my expenses are sky high. My expenses are sky high, and it's still only $1,500 a month. Right? I mean, I'm investing maybe $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month, and my expenses are sky high right now. But here, you know, but in 2 months, you know, I could even go and sell my animals, a few of my animals right now if I felt like it. I mean, they're already at $650, but I don't really want to sell them at $650 because I want to sell them, and then I want to show the checks to the bank, and I want the checks to be real big, right? Oh man, here's a guy, you know, he is making, you know, $20,000 a month, and he has $15,000 a month net cash flow positive. His business costs him $1,000 a month, and he has a net worth of over $2 million. That's what I want to show the bank, and then I want to tell the bank, give me a loan. I want to take a loan for about $1 million. And so you know, I want my balance sheet to look like that in 3 months. So I'm going to start preparing for it. I'm going to sell my animals real big. I have $2,000 worth of feed right now, and I believe that the $2,000 worth of feed is going to last me about a month, maybe about a month and a half. I still have a little bit of grass, and my biggest animals right now are about 650. Here pretty soon, the average weight of my herd, I would say right now is about 450, 500, and the average weight of my herd is going to go up to about 500, 550, maybe even, you know, something like 550. And so I'm getting everything ready to go to the bank. I want to show the bank, you know, I make $20,000 a month and I spend $5,000. I make $20,000 a month and I spend $4,000. That's what I want to show the bank. And so I'm getting everything ready. Right? I have a net excess cash flow of $16,000 a month. I have a net excess cash flow of $11,000 a month. That's what I want to show the bank. And so, you know, my business makes $15,000 a month, and I invest maybe $1,500 a month. Right? My $1,500 a month investment makes me $15,000. I invest $1,500 and I make $10,000. That, you know, and then I go to the bank and I say, you know, give me a loan. I want to take a loan for about $1 million. And then that's you know, that's what I want to do. And so the whole thing, and I've already said that, and I've always said that one of the best loans that you can take is to just make money and then show it to the bank. If you say, hey, banker, I make in excess of $15,000 a month. I have a $2 million net worth. My business is worth about $1.25 million, and I have $750,000 in real estate. If they take a look at that and then they take a look at you, they will give you, that's the best loan. Granted, you really don't want to collateralize your stuff. At the very end of the day, if you want to collateralize your stuff, I mean, then that's up to you, right? I mean, like, whatever, right? If you want to collateralize your stuff, and I've been talking a lot about collateralizing your assets. Like me right now, if I collateralize, instead of stock, let's just say I went to the bank and I collateralized my assets. I have this piece of land. This piece of land makes me about $12,000 a month. It makes me about $12,000 a month. So this piece of land, if I went to the bank and I said, you can hold my land as collateral, and I want a loan for whatever, 350 grand, 250 grand, and they gave me a loan for $250,000, that $250,000 would cost me like $1,500, maybe $2,000 a month. For that $250,000 loan, it would cost me $1,100 or $1,500, $2,000 a month, something like that. But the land that I collateralized produces me $11,000. So it doesn't matter. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. I can take the $1,500 a month that I need for my loan out of the $11,000 that I'm making. This is what I've been talking about for the whole. You don't have to become a farmer. You don't have to collateralize land to do this. You can collateralize your stock as well. If you put $2,000 a month into Coca-Cola stock, and in 10 years, Coca-Cola's still doing okay. Coca-Cola's actually selling for $1.25 a can now. You take a look at it, and you made 10% return a year on it, and now you have 400 grand. Your 400 grand. You take a look at the company. You still don't think that Coca-Cola is going bankrupt anytime soon. So you take a look at everything. And you say, well, then I anticipate that it's going to go up by about 10% a year, and it's 400 grand, so that's 40,000 a year that it's going up. It's producing a 3% dividend. And then you take a look at it and you say, well, I wouldn't really be at any risk, because if I took a loan for 250 grand, because if I took a loan for 250 grand, that would mean that the price of the stock had to fall 40%, right? And you don't think that Coca-Cola is going to fall by 40%, 50%, whatever, or whatever you think a reasonable number is. It could even be as low as 100,000, whatever you want. Right, let's say you need to go and buy, you want to go and buy yourself a new piece of land, right? You want to buy another equitable asset that's going to produce you a positive return, and you want to collateralize your assets for a loan so that you can go and purchase said asset. And so you go to the bank and you say, give me a loan for 150,000, and you took a loan for 150,000 because for your stock to be worth $150,000, Coca-Cola stock would have to fall by 70%. So you're like, oh well, Coca-Cola is not going to go down by 70%. And so I'm just going to take a loan for a third of my stock portfolio. So your stock portfolio is worth 400 grand. It's making you $40,000 a year, and that $100,000 loan that you took, it's going to cost you $750 a month. It's going to cost you $750 a month, and that $750 a month, you can just take it out of the 40 grand that your stock is purchasing, or that the stock is making you, and then you can just take your $100,000 and you could do whatever the heck you want with it. Me, in my situation, even I'm not saying I'm gonna do this, but I mean, at that point, the 100 grand is negligible money. It doesn't even matter, because it's like, you pay $750 a month for it. Your stock makes you 40 grand a year. I mean, your stock makes you what, $4,000, $3,000 a month. So it doesn't even matter. Your stock makes you $3,500 a month. You can go and spend the 100 grand, and you could even, you could light it on fire and it wouldn't do anything to you. All right. And then, that's how you end up in a situation like me. I could take 350 grand out of my business. The bank would give it to me is nothing, and I could go and spend every single last dollar, and it wouldn't even dent my financials. I could put it in a pile on the ground and burn it, and it wouldn't do anything. All right. I mean, and that's how I ended up in this situation. How did I end up with, like, I could go to the bank and take but I'm looking to take a loan for about $1 million. And so I'm not going to go and, take a $350,000 loan and buy myself a Lamborghini, right? I mean, I'm not going to do that. I want to take a loan for about $1 million here by about March. And when I go and I take that loan and I talk to the banker about it, I want my balance sheet to look really good. I want my balance sheet to look pristine, right? I mean, here's a guy who's making $15,000, $20,000 a month. He has a $2 million net worth, and he only spends about $4,000 or $5,000 a month. He's putting $7,000 a month, $6,000 a month cash into his bank account while still holding his asset portfolio steady. He is retaining the same number of cattle, but he is still generating $7,000 a month of net profit. And if I wanted my money back from my cattle, I can just go and liquidate the animals. It doesn't matter, right? That's what I want the bank to see. So I want to show them, hey, you know, I make $15,000 a month. I have the same number of cattle. I still generate a $7,000 a month profit. My business costs me about, you know, on the average, on the long-term average, it's about $1,000, maybe $1,200 a month. And, you know, for that $1,200 investment, I am making about $15,000 back. I'm making about $12,000 back. That's what I want to show the bank. All right, and so, you know, here in about 2 or 3 months, I'm getting myself ready to take a big loan. I'm not going to buy myself a truck until after I've bought my new piece of land. And I anticipate that the bank will give me about $1 million. I anticipate that the bank will give me about $1 million, and the big idea is that I want to show the bank, hey, I make a large